Hello there. I'm Kurt Labberton. I was president of Yakima Rotary from 2016 to 2017. We had a great year. It's always great when you just rely on the Rotarians you ask to do the head the committees and be on the committees and get out of their way. And boy, did I get out as fast as I could because we had great people. We did a wonderful, wonderful job in an auction year, speakers, etc. But the story I'd like to share is not a combination of elements of that year, but one that sort of summarized Rotary and my experience that year. It has to do with an event in late April, about this time of year, I think, maybe a little later at the 4th Street Theater. Our exchange students were going to talk about their experiences in Yakima. And one from Taiwan, Donna Lin, led off the two that we're going to talk that day. This, as you recall, is about a 3 to 5 minute thing, no more than 5, hopefully, maybe it drifts to 6. She was very excited. Her English was still struggling a little bit this time in her year. Had an interesting sense of humor and had a great time here in Yakima. And so she went 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6, 7, 8 into the 9th minute. We're heading to double figures. As president, I'm getting more and more and more worried. There was no real good way to ask her to pause or interrupt her. She just obviously meant more and more to her emotionally. About the 10-minute point, as I realized the schedule is just going to pot here. I've got some way to move along on our agenda here without being rude in any way. She began to talk about telling her Taiwanese father that she loved him. It was not something a Taiwanese girl would normally do to her father. He didn't even know if it was his own daughter. She began to sob. I was close to sobbing. I don't know who else in the room was sobbing. She turned to me and put her head on my shoulder, and I tried to comfort her. I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to cut her off now. So she went back to finish the story, did a couple more elements of her experience, and ended at about the 13-minute mark. We still got through the program, and everything was great that day. And here's the point of my telling you this little event about it. Because during all of that, the entire membership sat there and no one did anything but were appropriate. The reason I brought that up is because it says a lot about Rotary. During that entire time, while she was struggling to get through the story, which meant a great deal to her, no one was antsy. No one shifted weight awkwardly in their seats. They didn't look at their phones. Nobody wandered out of the room. Nobody whispered to their neighbors. They sat in rapt attention as she unloaded what was on her heart at the end of this long year to us as a group. And then at the end of it, when we ended the meeting and people left, I cannot tell you how many Rotarians went up and put their arms around her, told her how much they enjoyed having her here, that she'd always be a member of our club, that they really were touched by her comments. So that my point by saying all this is that sometimes service above self implies writing checks or building buildings or doing other things that are visibly significant and have a long, long value that we can all see. But sometimes what service above self means is doing something that has long value that you can't see. And what you couldn't see in this was how this woman was touched by being in our club, so embraced by our club, and that the ladies and gentlemen of this Rotary Club behaved exactly like that at a time when it would have been easy to be less than attentive, and supported her in a very wonderful way. And that's why I was so proud that day when I left Rotary to go home as the president of the greatest Rotary Club in America. So thank you very much.